Spoiler warning. This video contains major plot spoilers for Kingdom Come Deliverance. In From the Ashes, you are put in charge of the destroyed town and former bandit encampment, Pribyslavitz. You are made bailiff and tasked with the job of rebuilding the abandoned ruins to its former glory. First fucking mistake right there. Who the fuck thought it would be a good idea to put me in charge? Welcome to Kingdom Come Deliverance, From the Ashes DLC. So what is From the Ashes? From the Ashes is listed as the first DLC for Kingdom Come Deliverance, although technically it's the first proper DLC. Technically the first actual DLC was the Treasures of the Past £4 gear bundle. This was basically a unique plate armour set and a few toys that were a Kickstarter reward for backers, and later sold for a nominal fee to the rest of us peons who lacked the vision and common fucking sense to back this game from the very beginning. Serves us fucking right, I guess. In From the Ashes, you become responsible for rebuilding Pribyslavitz, a location in the far north of the map. This town was put to the torch and abandoned 12 years earlier, and until Henry intervened, it was a tumble-down shithole containing a campsite occupied by a random selection of Cuman and Bohemian bandits. These chumps were best known for each carrying a conspicuously large amount of very well maintained bows and swords, which is certainly the main reason why early game I routinely go there and steal their precious loots and pretzels. As Warhorse are at great pains to point out, From the Ashes is not some kind of tower defense minigame or a Fallout 4 style settlement metagame. It's an RPG, and you play the role of bailiff. The point of this DLC is to rebuild the town at significant personal expense, try to keep everybody happy, and as a reward you get a potentially significant daily income and a very convenient safe harbour in the north. So how does the DLC function? The DLC unlocks shortly after you kill Runt during the main quest line. You trot down to Townburg, speak to Sir Divish, hope he didn't notice that you fucked his wife, and he'll give you a quest and send you off to Pribyslavitz. You hot pedal up there to conduct some light recon and bandit stabbing and rescue the Locator. The Locator is basically the architect, accountant, scout and bureaucrat that does all the adulting for you whilst you puff your chest out and bark orders at people about what to build. The basic equation is this: you have to bankroll the whole fucking gig out of your own pocket money, and it ain't fucking cheap. And I'm talking well over 100,000 groschen of not fucking cheap. Now that is a lot of fucking cat food. In return, you get to play boss man and eventually get a financial return on your investment, as long as you don't royally fuck this shit up. And fucking this shit up is very, very possible. Apparently, if you piss off the residents enough, the settlement will be taken away from you and effectively you lose the DLC for the rest of the playthrough. This may be the case during the quest phase, but once complete, I managed to kill everyone and still maintain control. Who knows? Maybe Sir Divish was on his way up here to spank me. But after a little while, I reloaded from an earlier save and started behaving responsibly again. So what's my evaluation of From the Ashes? To set the scene, I've completed the core of the DLC during my first hardcore playthrough, and I started it right after killing Runt. Right off the bat, just like the rest of Kingdom Come Deliverance, it doesn't really hold your hand. If you pay attention, use your brain, and read the ledger carefully, you can gradually figure out what the fuck is going on without having to scramble for the nearest online guide. Put it this way, I am professionally fucking stupid, and I figured it out. So most people watching this video will too, as long as they take the time to read the information at hand and think hard before they decide what to do next. I fairly quickly realised from the obscure medieval text that some buildings appeared to generate money and some buildings appeared to cost money to run. It was, however, immediately fucking crystal clear that all the buildings were fucking expensive to construct. I personally think that this is at the heart of why this DLC will mean different things to different players, based on their playstyle, whether they are on normal or hardcore, and if they're in early or late game. My first experience was early game on hardcore, so developing Pribyslavitz meant something specific to me. On hardcore it's much harder to make money, and on top of this, starting the DLC at the earliest opportunity meant I had not stored up the huge cash reserves to bankroll everything in one go. In fact, I had to grind a fuck ton of groschen and build each new building as and when I had raised the cash. So for me, building the town was bloody hard work. But by the time I was finished, it was making about 2,000 groschen income per day. Plus, since I can't fast travel in hardcore, I now had a safe harbour with vendors, food supplies, repair options, a save bed and facilities in the far north of the map, conveniently close to a load of bandit camps where I can go and grind. For me, it was a gradual process. I watched the town grow, and it turned into a fantastic investment that paid off in a shit ton of different ways. I enjoyed both the process and the end result. Other players might not see it the same way. For example, I've seen some less enthusiastic responses about the DLC from players who typically were playing on normal mode and they were in the late game, sitting on a stockpile of hundreds of fucking thousands of groschen. They could just scoot up to Pribyslavitz with their huge sacks of gold, quickly fast travel around the map, capping all the supply quests, then cruise back to town to one-shot the building work with their vast financial reserves, and still be home in time for tea and fucking medals. If you did it this way, I can see why the DLC would feel like a less significant and less satisfying experience. And I get it. I don't think you will get the most satisfaction out of the DLC if you just cruise up there with 500,000 groschen, cap it and fuck off back to Rattay to roll around in a bed full of golden hookers. Starting this DLC poor and on hardcore, however, I really fucking enjoyed it. I'm in great danger here of peddling some kind of bullshit, pride and accomplishment narrative, but nevertheless, I think the DLC is more enjoyable when it's hard earned, rather than capped instantly with a huge sack of coin. I also think Pribyslavitz will be more valuable to the player in hardcore than in normal mode. Regardless of how people experience the process of rebuilding the town, once it's done, it becomes a valuable resource. It becomes an insanely valuable resource on hardcore. The irony is that before you rebuild the town, Pribyslavitz is arguably the best money grinding spot in game. When you start the DLC, you lose that. But once you've rebuilt it, you gain a new town that makes money, which is fairly close to 5 or 6 bandit camps which you can grind and then sell your loots at the vendors when you get back. Especially on hardcore, with less money and no fast travel, it's a bloody decent place to have a friendly home. So I would say that From the Ashes is definitely more aligned with the hardcore player experience. I would also note that I've seen a couple of reviews that clearly indicated that the reviewer had not played out all the options, had not fully completed the DLC, and on a few occasions complained about things that were factually incorrect because of this. It's also perfectly possible that I might be missing something out of this video because I've not encountered it yet, so please keep that in mind. For example, not everyone is immediately aware that once the core DLC is completed and the whole town is rebuilt, characters around the game can be recruited to take key jobs in the town with better or worse results. So even if you might think the DLC is over, there are still a few things to do in order to buff the town's performance to the maximum. I would be the first to admit that I'm probably inclined to be biased towards this DLC, and I need to be upfront about that. I openly fangirl for risk-taking independent game creators, especially Warhorse Studios, and fucking love Kingdom Come Deliverance, so consider yourselves warned. If I have any criticisms of the DLC, it would be that I was disappointed that I couldn't find any option to build a bathhouse at Pribyslavitz. I visit bathhouses obsessively, and a few more prostitutes in town could have only been a good thing. In fact, I would go further and say, all Kingdom Come Deliverance DLC must contain prostitutes. It's a fucking law. I just made it up. It would have also been nice to see a few more additional gear items. Nothing special or better, just a few more different things to wear or equip. I do, however, appreciate that with a 14-layer equipment modelling system, where they're trying to make all items mesh together with all possible permutations, introducing new gear in bulk is a complex business. Making all possible gear items clip perfectly together with all other gear items is a big fucking job, considering this game probably has the most complex equipment mechanics I've ever seen in a video game. This said, I have discovered some new gear items. New horse armour, a bow, longsword and shield, and there may be more that I've missed. Overall though, I really like this DLC, and I thought it was a solid addition to the game, and absolutely worth the £8. Certainly playing on hardcore mode, it really felt like I was constructing a bridgehead for my further adventures in the north. So what are my tips for getting the most out of the DLC? I'm not going to give you some best build order or give away too much explicit information. I think half the fun is figuring it out on your own. But there are a few things that will help you avoid total bohemian Armageddon. First off, read the bloody ledger carefully. It's about as comprehensible as IKEA furniture assembly instructions. But similarly, if you spend the time carefully analysing the information before you fucking faceplant into the building process, you will save yourself some irreversible mistakes. Talking of irreversible, and I mean the concept, not the movie where the geezer beats the other geezer to death with a fire extinguisher, in the name of the holy patron saint of prostitutes, dear fucking lord, save the fucking game before you build anything, for reasons that will become clear. Watch out for either or choices. It's not immediately obvious, certainly not to fucking dolts like me, but some buildings and upgrade options are mutually exclusive. That's posh talk for they're either or choices. You have to choose between swordsmith or armoursmith upgrade, blacksmith or stables. It's possible that you will only spot one of these when it's too late, so as previously stated, always save the game just before you build something new. Get the settlement into profit first. Some buildings make money. Some cost money to run. Personally, I just built buildings that made profit and then let that cook off at 2,000 groschen per day, so I got full benefit of the cash flow before moving on to costly improvements. Theoretically, if you're both fuck poor and piss lazy, you could build a couple of money-making buildings and fuck off elsewhere for a good length of time and come back to find enough cash to build the next facility. However you do it, just remember the common sense logic. Make the damn town always run in profit, otherwise every new dawn will see your money sucked out of your grubby, booger-filled pocket. Keep an eye on the little Judge Judy raised platform where you can pass judgment on disputes. My only advice is, listen to everyone, do the right thing, then everyone will be happy. It's worth noting that for some things, at least, you can choose to build via the book ledger or directly from speaking to the locator, Marius. Don't shit in your own bed. The town is a costly investment, so don't screw the fucking pooch. I would advise against murdering and stealing, both in and within the vicinity of your settlement. If you build an inn and invest in dice tables, With a few crooked dice in your possession, you can make a very fast 250 groschen when you swing through town. On my hardcore playthrough, my fella has the Warhorse and 5 lucky dice. I can rinse those suckers faster than a hooker can swipe your wallet. Trust me.
Kurva.
This is all fairly universal and uncontroversial gaming advice. Make profit. Read the fucking instructions. Don't murder your friends. Pretty obvious stuff. So is this DLC worth it? In order to answer this question, I'm going to use some fucking science. Because science makes you look like you know what you're talking about. Especially if you don't. As a quick comparison, I recently saw a DLC selling for a AAA title, which was slightly more expensive than this. And you only got weapon skins and some asset flipped content. On the other hand, Fallout 4 Far Harbor was a huge DLC, and I think a benchmark for DLC excellence. But even now, Far Harbor is still retailing at £20. That's 2.5 times the cost of this DLC. I don't think From the Ashes represents the same superb bang for your buck as something like Far Harbor, but it's a damn sight better value for money than most DLC offerings in this age of paywalled, weapon skin, asset flip, pay to win, gated content, bonus map, bullshit DLC rip-offs. At full price, it's £8, or about $10 US on Steam. You get a new fucking town, some new fucking quests for rebuilding, managing and recruiting for your new settlement. You get some new horses, gear, and a convenient location for grinding and training your skills. Personally, I fucking loved it. It's £8 for fuck's sake, and you get some decent content to complement an already excellent game. A game that, let's remember, is cheaper than most games of this scale. My advice is this: if you are enjoying Kingdom Come Deliverance, then don't overthink it. It's just £8, so just fucking buy it. You can thank me later. But for now, good luck, and happy hunting.
I've heard some talk from folk, and I get the feeling you're not entirely on the best of terms with the locals.